Get started. Om. 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 Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayim Amba Tvam Anusantatami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshinim Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pulla Ravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamritaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavaha Dogda Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Duktam Geetamritam Mahat. Once again, is it audible? Second. You're able to hear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Are you able to see my slides also?
No.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. 1 second.
We can see now.
Yeah. Okay. Let me put it on. Now, do you see one slide or?
Yeah.
Okay.
One.
Okay. Great. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapada Kramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidhusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So welcome everyone to this next session of 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We have talked about how this chapter is not about just any ordinary form of meditation. Now, what do I mean by any ordinary form of meditation? When we think about meditation, we think that, if I close my eyes and just sit quietly in a place, then my mind will just go inward and I will be shutting out everything from the outside and I will be at peace with myself, right? That's what we think about as a normal form of meditation. But here we see Lord Krishna taking us step by step through different forms of an understanding of not just what meditation is, but truly who am I? Because that is the crux. That is the crux of really wanting to get to that highest level of meditation. So this is why this chapter is called the Atma Sanyama Yoga, which is truly understanding who I am, because only when I shift my perspective from who I think I am to what I actually am, only then can I really get into that highest form of meditation. So that is why this chapter is extremely important from that angle. And this is why it is called Vedantic knowledge and a Vedantic meditation. And the knowledge that we get from studying the first 6 chapters is basically about getting to slowly shifting that notion about who I am. That is what this first 6 chapters we looked into it. So with that being said, meditation is actually very, very important. From as much as we know that, just listening to this knowledge is important, because in listening to knowledge gives me the perspective of changing myself. But meditation is really where I'm able to disengage myself from the world when I think that, who I am is replaced by who I'm not. So that is why we are looking into this aspect of getting into this chapter here. And in reflection time, we, as I said, it's always great to listen to each one of you to see what have you got from the mananam of this chapter. Because in this reflection, which is the Sanskrit word is mananam, we see that mananam is the way where we can remove any shade of any doubt of this thought of who I am, correct? So in the regular world, when I'm interacting, now that, for me, it's daytime here, I'm going to start my day here by going back to my work and everything. The thought immediately comes to my mind that I'm Sunitha and I'm this position, and this is the expectation from other people, from me. So all that happens immediately. So mananam is that thing which removes any shade of doubt of this, who I am. I'm really not this Sunitha. I'm really not this position. I've taken up all this just to play a role, because that role is what I have identified myself with. But in reality, I'm actually something beyond this role. So that thought of it needs to be completely something that I need to be convinced upon. So that is why this reflection time is very, very important, because we do get into identifying physically and emotionally, because this has become a habit for us. The habit that I am this physical body and I am always interacting with this mind. This is the biggest problem for us. It has become so big of an habit that it has continued. This habit has continued for us, not just in this life, but from many, many previous lives. And that habit, we have to break it. Really, really very important to think about this and reflect upon this. And that is why I'm putting this as a reflection time, as a mananam, because think about all the things that I've become habituated with. Think about in this habit, what is the main factor in this habit? Everything that I do routinely, which I do it in an autopilot mode, what is the main factor? And I'm sure when you think about it carefully, you will see the main factor is this I, Sunitha. Sunitha is the main factor in this. Sunitha is doing this. Sunitha is eating this on a regular basis. Sunitha likes this particular food. Sunitha does things in this attitude. But in all this, that factor is Sunitha. And think about how that Sunitha can be shattered to think about who Sunitha is not. So I leave you with that question to ponder upon this week. Okay. Any questions or any thoughts? So does anybody have any want to talk about any particular shloka today? It can be any one of them. Something which...
Sunitha, I have a question. Maybe it's
Yeah.
a profound question. When we close our eyes, we should think that who I am, really I am, right? That's what is important. From not this, not this, not this, what am I? That's the question.
Correct.
But whenever we try to do that, the thoughts, different thoughts come into our picture, into our mind. So many, we dream or whatever it comes. So we have to keep negating that one by one. But is it a long process? Is it a very hard process? Or I am finding it difficult actually to do that.
It can be as short a process as you want, and it can be as long a process it can end up being. It all depends upon where today's shlokas of 33 and 34 will focus upon, which is ultimately and I'll give you that in a nutshell now itself. There are only two things he says ultimately, which determines how short or how long the process can be. And he uses two statements here, which, like I said, I'll tell it to you right now. It's like sometimes we read the last page of the book, to know what the answer is, right? So here he says the answer ultimately is only two things. One is, he says, abhyasa. Abhyasa is practice, okay? Second thing he says is vairagya. Vairagya, which is dispassion or non-attachment. If you can say non-attachment, but non-attachment isn't this one. Basically dispassion. Dispassion indicating that slowly and slowly, I have to recognize that this world in which I'm living in is only creating unnecessary problems for me. If I say the word problem, it sounds very negative. But what I'm saying is this world is only creating an illusion that my happiness is in the world. So I'm running behind a lot of things for that happiness. Dispassion or vairagya is that aspect which tells me through clear understanding. Bhagavad Gita can tell me anything what it wants, but I have to slowly allow the thought to sink in my mind that my happiness that I'm trying to look at in the world outside, it could be anything, it could be the position that I'm in, it could be the things I'm running for, the things that people are expecting from me. All this at the end of the day is only a habit. I have created that habit in my mind. And this is very, very careful. And that is why I hit upon that reflection of Mananam is, we have got ourselves into a bad habit in looking at the world for happiness. I have to change that habit, and that can happen only through this word called dispassion. And because of that, I need to keep practicing abhyasa, practice every moment to think that happiness is not outside. I am that happiness. I am the Sat Chit Ananda. I am Brahman. I am that Ananda. I don't have to look at outside for any happiness. How can I develop that habit? So as simple as that. So that's what I'm saying. As simple as that. If I get these two words into my mind, abhyasa and vairagya, and I practice it, it can be very short. But if I don't practice it, it's, again, simple example which we use in our lives of losing weight. And I keep coming back to this very, very simple example. because nothing like that. If I know that I want to lose 5 kgs or whatever, 20 pounds or whatever, how do I do that? I do it with consistency. I do it little by little at a time. And I do it with understanding, correct? Without that, I don't do it mechanically. Only when I do understanding, then I lose my 20 pounds. So to here, slowly, I have to break the habit about everything that I'm looking at and do it. So the consistency of habit is actually abhyasa.
Even though we understand,
Yes.
even if we understand, why aren't we not able to break the habit?
I think our mind is
Well,
distracted. Yes, Amma.
Yeah, I think mind can change in a second, even though it is steady and it gives us the impression that it understands, it can sort of vary in a second. I think more than the mind, it's the intellect, the knowledge and the intellect plays a bigger role, because it sort of you, by knowledge, you slowly understand certain things, and you start to eliminate. When you start to eliminate, your mind realizes that the Brahman everywhere is in you too. And that is the goal we are all working towards. So, I feel that more than the mind, it's the intellect which is like the rain. It holds the mind from wandering here and there. So it has to happen naturally, like a bud blooming, blossoming out. That the knowledge comes to us gradually and slowly. That is why that verse 25 says, Shana, Shana, little by little.
Yes.
I feel the mind, the tendency of the mind is to change, however steadfast and however vairagya it is. So it's the intellect which is holding the mind from wandering and sort of realizing the ultimate. I don't know, that is my opinion.
No, very good, Amma. You already are now reflecting on a particular shloka here. I like that. You took shloka number 25 about slowly and slowly how the mind can be tamed by the intellect and how the intellect can help. But for us who are so involved in the world, right? The question always is, even where you are speaking, Amma, about how intellect can control the mind. When I am so much involved with my day-to-day duties and responsibilities, at that point, my mind is not even thinking about mind and intellect, right? So I need to have one more lower step, which will help me do that. And here I sometimes, when I say, I'm not saying lower step from a point of view that it's lesser importance, but I think it is extremely very important. Is sometimes, even books like The 7 Habits of Success of Stephen Covey, right? He always talks about how do you, first we have to start with the end goal in mind. We need to know what is my priority. In the priority itself, today, if I look at it, it's only material pursuits that is my priority, right? So when I'm so in a whole day, can I not take 5 minutes out of that time for meditation? I think I can. Definitely 100% we can. Even the most busiest of executives can take that 5 minutes out. But what do? We give excuses, because the priority is not there. If I keep giving excuses, how can my meditation ever happen, right? So that is one thing. Second thing is that I have to regulate my life. I have to make sure in my day-to-day life that I follow certain niyamas, right? Niyamas or the things like, okay, I need to eat well, I need to have enough sleep, I need to do things in a calm manner, I need to plan well. These are simple, basic things. And if I don't have that kind of a discipline, there is just no way that I will ever have, like Amma was saying right now, where the intellect is waiting to speak to me. But I'm not allowing that intellect to speak because I'm keeping the mind engaged in one activity after the other. And as I've said before too, is, we have habituated even our children to keep themselves busy. We tell our children, keep yourself busy every minute of your time, do something, do something. Of course, for children, we want them to get out of a tamas into a rajas, because only when you take the tamas out and get them into rajas, can you actually go to the next level of sattva. That is true. However, we have to find a way, even from our children's point of view, get them to read some books, not get them habituated to the phone or the iPad or anything. So there are so many things that we have to, from a very low point of view, simple things to regulate my life. And only when I do this, can I even think about that point where I'm sitting down and I'm allowing my intellect to tell me, hey, what are you doing? Why are you running? Is this really going to give you happiness? That's all really high level thoughts sometimes, right? So something to think about. At the end of the day, Abhyasa and Vairagya is where we're going to end up today in our thing. But at the end of the day, we need this simple thought of looking at priorities in my life.
Harvom, I can reflect on a sloka this week or next week.
You can do it now if you want, since we are in a little bit of a mananam today, having started.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Actually, in some of the lines we are discussing, this may be on the same lines. This is sloka number 17. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chestasya karmasu yukta swapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. So just looking at this sloka says everything to be in moderation. So the ahara, the vihara, the places we go, and then the activities we do, and the sleep and waking state, all that need to be in moderation. Just elaborating this, let's say I didn't sleep well, at all, or then if I sit for meditation or for a class, then my mind is on the sleep. So similarly, the others. So as for meditation, and so these are, leaving things or keeping things in moderation. So that's important. And even in our regular life, this still, has plays very good role, like the ahara, and then like the weight loss you were just mentioning a few minutes back. And then the activities, and then sleep. So much sleep management classes are so much these days. And then how much sleep deprivation and what are the effects. So just looking at that, and this sloka is so relevant for meditation as well as in the day-to-day life.
That's right. That's right. So that also answers Gita's question on why is it difficult to get this knowledge, how long is this process? Starting with the disciplined approach said in the shloka 17, Yukta Harasya Viharasya, about sleep, food, and activity. Those are the three things he's addressing in the shloka, right, Anandji? So that's the discipline. If I can follow that, no matter what, this is another thing sometimes, we have to tell ourselves, and me particular, I'm very much a victim of that aspect too, is we really don't regulate our life, and we give importance to all the other things that's happening. We think, okay, this week I'm very busy. I have to take care of this. I'm willing to work very hard to finish this. Now, why do we do that? Why can't I put my life, the simple things, sleep, food, and activity in moderation, and then work around everything around this? Why are we not doing that? That's a question that we have to ask ourselves. Very important, We give importance and priority to everything else, but these three simple things, we don't do it. Good. So let's move on to looking at, today we will chant from shloka number 20. And as I said, today I'll finish about 15 minutes early because I have to go to Ernakulam. We'll start with 20. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Ata Shashtodhyayaha Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yatro Paramate Chittam Niruddham Yoga Sevaya Yatra Chaivatmanatmanam Pashyannatmani Tushyati Sukhamatyantikam Yattad Buddhigrahyamatīndriyam Veti Yadrana Chaivayam Stitaschalati Tatvataha Yam Labdhva Cha Param Labham Manyate Nadhikam Tataha Yasmin Stito Na Dukkhena Gurunamapi Vichalyate Tam Vidya Dukkha Sanyogam Viyogam Yoga Sangitam Sanishchayena Yoktavyaha Yogo Nirvinna Chetasa Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman Tyaktva Sarvana Sheshataha Manasaivendriya Gramam Viniyamya Samantataha Shanai Shanai Ruparame Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya Atma Samstam Mana Kritva Nakinchidapi Chintayed Yato Yato Nischarati Manaschanchala Astiram Tatastato Niyam Yaitat Atmanyeva Vasham Nayed Prashanta Manasam Hyenam Yoginam Sukhamuttamam Upaiti Shantarajasam Brahmabhutama Kalmasham Yunjannevam Sadatmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmashaha Sukhena Brahma Samsparsham Atyantam Sukhamashnute. So we finished up till here, literally about all the techniques of meditation, why we should meditate, how we should meditate, all that was discussed up till the 28th. So then in 29 through 32, which we did last week, actually we did 29 to 31. We will complete 32 and then we'll move on to the next two shlokas. In this, we actually talked about very important as to how do I change my the thinking pattern. So our usual thinking, like we said, is, we are so habituated in thinking that, I am Sunitha, you are Geeta, you are Anant, not even, we don't make any mistakes in this thing, right? So, but then is that really where I want to go with? If I really want to achieve perfection in my meditation, again, meditation is only a technique. Meditation is not going to transform me. Meditation is not that at all. But meditation is that restful state during which time I am being one with myself. So for that reason, I have to the key thing is I really need to expand this thinking of who I am. And that is why this Vyashti and Samashti is an important two words here. I need to think about myself as something beyond this body. This expansion is what you see in this next 4 verses where he's talking about this. Because like I said, the one thing that is blocking me from thinking about this is this habit of who I think I am. This habit has become so ingrained in me that I'm the Sunitha. So because of that, I look at all the events that happened to me, including, I want to say, this this aspect of, if I were to lose my job, for example, if I lose my job, or if somebody robs me of something, or when I have to be sort of separated away from somebody whom I'm really in love with, all this is because I've become so habituated in thinking about this individualistic self. So I need to change this. And I need to change even the way this whole world is situated. How do I look at this whole world is an extension of myself? Or even if I want to look at it a little differently, is an extension of that God, whoever that God image that we have in our mind. So for that reasons, this next 4 shlokas, which we said is really about this expansion of my mind. Because when I talk about this habit, and now that, I've moved from US to here, to India, a simple example is, when we bought our car, very simply, as soon as you see the car, you automatically, you go to the other side. In US, the driving is what, on the left-hand side? Or I always forget about which is right. Yes. So if you're driving on the left-hand side, automatically if a passenger, you go on the other side, right? But it's so habituated, you don't even think about it. You automatically just go on the other side. That's how our behavior is. Our behavior is, it's total, the orientation is, I'm actually going on the other side, whereas I should be looking at I should, change my direction on how I'm thinking. And that is the whole idea which is given in the next 3 shlokas here, which is Sarva Bhutastamatmanam, Sarva Bhutani Chatmani, Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma, Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. Instead of looking at this world as a world of individuals, I need to slowly, through this meditations, change my way of thinking. I need to start looking at everyone as, equally. And that is what we see, that in a perfect state of meditation, the person loses that sense of I-ness and looks at the whole world. And so we gave this beautiful example last time about how in an ocean, when I'm standing at the beach and I'm looking at the ocean, I look at each wave as something separate. I look at this one wave coming at me and then this dying away, and then it again, another wave is coming. So if I have to give a name and form for each of the waves, saying that this big wave is coming, this big wave, this frothy wave is coming, or this really clear wave is coming, then I'm not, basically, I'm into this level of separating this individual things, right? So meditation basically it expands this notion of really what this wave is. So first I start to look at all these waves as they're different. Some waves are big, some waves are small, some last for a few seconds, and some of them, can be there for a long period of time. Basically, in meditation, I start to think about that ultimately, everybody, the individualness of everyone who I think in this world disappears. I start to look at my own, say, parents or neighbors or everyone as really as one. And that, to that essence is what, he's talking about in this shloka here, where you start to look at everything with an equal vision. So that is where he said in this one. Then in shloka 30, he takes the step one further. In the previous shloka, he talks about looking at the whole world with an equal vision. But here he starts to say about how it's me alone, which is there in everything. And in that, so one sees me in everything. And also I see everything in me. So this is a little more sort of powerful and difficult sometimes to understand. But the essence of this meaning gives us this idea that, I don't have to be afraid of anything. Since everything is just me, then why am I afraid of things happening in this world? Why do I have this fear? So yoma pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. So, I'm not separated from anyone, nor does anybody get separated from me. So that is the idea which he's again showing here. And here, this is again, if I look at the whole ocean, if the entire ocean is just nothing but water, then what am I really running away from? I don't have to run away from anything. I don't have to run away from one place to another. I can be happy where I am. So many different thoughts can come from just this one shloka, the loss of fear, the ability to just accept anyone and everyone, just everything is just one in this one shloka, So that is, we saw in shloka 30. Then in shloka 31, he goes to, he brings this turn, like I said last time, it's no longer just theoretical, but now there is a sense of bhakti that he brings in, which is Sarva Bhutastitam Yoma Bhajatye Katvam Mastitaha Sarvatha Vartamanopi Sayogi Mai Vartate. So he says, he who worships me. So there is this bhakti element which is brought here. Ultimately, Krishna is telling Arjuna that he who worships me as abiding in all beings, and such a person is established in that oneness, it doesn't matter who he is. Sarvata Vartamanapi, whatever be his mode of living, such a yogi abides in me. So just again trying to show this beauty of what this knowledge is, it is about that oneness, and it's only that oneness which can really bring us closer to recognizing my individual self and recognizing what this whole world is all about. It just brings you that sense of beauty and love and awe and everything. And we talked about this example of this Indian cricket team last time. Actually, not just Indian cricket team, you can think about so many different examples, but here in this Indian cricket team, when I'm going to, and let's talk about the University of Michigan, the U of M game, right? U of M game versus the Ohio game which happens. If you belong to the U of M team, if you're a fan, you'll automatically wear the U of M sweater or, the cap or anything just to show your solidarity with that team, right? So too, here Krishna is saying that, when you recognize your oneness with people, you automatically start to be like them. So, the examples also we see that in and through every mud pots, I see only mud. I don't see the shapes. I don't see the form. I don't give it a name, nothing. I see only mud, right? So that's where he's going with. So then in shloka 32, ultimately is, he gives you, what should I say, the final sort of an award for going through all this. So we'll chant this. Atmaupam yena sarvatra, Atmaupam yena sarvatra, Samam pashyati yorjuna, Samam pashyati yorjuna, Sukham va yadi va dukkham, Sukham va yadi va dukkham, Sayogi paramo mataha, Sayogi paramo mataha. So he says, Atma pamyena sarvatra. So having now established, or having now established in this knowledge about the fact that ultimately, just like how in the ocean, all the waves are nothing but water, so too, when I look at the whole world, I see nothing but my own self in each and every one. So through the likeness of the self everywhere, he's giving this logic. Ultimately, Krishna is saying, Samam Pashyati Yaha Arjuna. So he who sees with that equanimity, very important word here, equanimity. How do I establish that equanimity with everyone? When I have that equanimity, then what happens? Sukham va yadi va dukkham. Let that person give me pleasure, or let that person give me pain. I don't worry about it. That's so in one shot, you kind of lose any kind of negative feelings you would have with anybody, right? So sukham va yati va dukkham sayogi parama mataha. So that person who can see with that equanimous vision with anyone, to anyone, whether the person is, gives sorrow or whether joy, that person, Krishna says, is the one, he in my opinion, is really the most evolved or the most successful person or the most important person for me. This is Krishna's thing, what he's trying to give. So, this is a kind of a Christian saying, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? So very simple, very practical teaching is what Krishna is saying here. And he's just trying to say that, you will never do anything to anybody because you never would wish the same thing for yourself. So with this, actually, that whole topic of meditation is completed. And now you will see that in the next shloka, 33, Arjuna has a question, okay? Just like Gita asked this question at the beginning, about, yeah, this sounds great, but how long is it going to take, right? So you see Arjuna picking on the question of equanimity, he says, okay, this sounds great, Krishna, you're saying I got to be equal to everybody, but how can that happen? That is just impossible for me. And so you see, he really talks about a very practical question here, which is about the restless mind, So we chant this. Arjuna Uvacha, Yoyam Yogastvaya Proktaha, Yoyam Yogastvaya Proktaha, Samyena Madhusudana, Samyena Madhusudana, Etasyaham na pranashyami, Etasyaham na pranashyami, Chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram, Chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram. So he's saying, okay, what you're saying is great, that Samyena Madhusudana, you're talking about the Samya, equanimity, but I don't see that. I just cannot see that. Look at the development of Arjuna too, right? Now he's really talking about his mind. He's saying my mind is so restless. Chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram. That is how my mind is, totally unstable. How do you expect me to think about this equanimity? So let's do the next shloka too, which is again,
is it time for you, Sunitha? Is it time for you?
It is time. Yeah, maybe we'll do the next shloka next week, but we'll actually get to the crux of it next week, because 33 and 34 establishes just Arjuna's question, okay, about the fickleness of the mind.
I almost asked the same question.
Yes, you did. So we'll stop here. 1 second. Hari Om Sundarji, I'm coming down. I'll come down. Okay, see you. Bye. Yeah.
Hari Om Sunitha ji, thank you. Hari Om.
You're welcome. I will stop here. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, Ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhaved. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. See you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Sunitha ji. Bye.
welcome.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sunitha ji.
Have a
Thank you,
safe
Sunitha
trip.
ji.
Have a safe